Well, happy Halloween, everyone. We have a special kind of spooky edition for you today. We're going to take a look at just a few of the decorations in my neighborhood. The scariest thing is enjoy it now as you see it being so colorful and lush and full, because later this afternoon we're going to be taking out most of the lantana, a lot of the annuals, which are still admittedly going strong, but we have to make room for all of those tulip bulbs, pansies, and other things to come. So what do you say, Stuart?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay, so what's going to come out? Well, this berm is an example right here. These huge mounds of this pink lemonade, lantana in the foreground, it's all going to come out. Most of all of this white lantana will come out. Sadly, even these sun patiens are going to come out, because this is one of the areas where I will plant lots of tulips and some pansies. And I have to really get a visual for what things will look like in their absence so I can decide what will go where. So even though it breaks my heart to take these out, it has, and especially now because we got great rain last night, hallelujah. We got great rain last night and everything looks so fresh. But the seasons ultimately must change. It even cooled down a little bit. So as sad as I will be to see them leave, it will also make the garden look a lot cleaner. It will expose the bones of the garden, all of my beautiful boxwood balls, the better boxwood little villages. I'll have an idea where, if at all, I need to place more evergreens, and I'll have a much cleaner aspect to know where I need to infuse seasonal color for next spring once all of this summer color and early fall color is gone. Okay, I couldn't be more thrilled with the way the grass has finally come in.
It is bright.
It is
so bright.
Yeah, it is really bright green, and let me tell you, it really picked up on the perkiness index after all of that rain last night, so I'm thrilled. Now, something else that's going to be coming up, and you might want to note this in your garden journal if you too have overseeded, and that is today on Halloween, thankfully for the kiddies, for the 3,000 kids that will come through, the weather is supposed to be wonderful tonight. It's cool, it's going to be not really windy, and happily not raining. However, next week it is supposed to rain quite a bit. So one thing I will probably do right before that rain comes in, as gorgeous as this looks, I'm still going to put down one more treatment of Milorganite, that organic granulized nitrogen, that I'll put it down before all of that rain arrives to really soak it in. And then that's the last I'll do before next spring. But think how beautiful this lush green champion ryegrass will look next spring when all of the tulips are in bloom. Last year I made the mistake of not putting down quite enough seed, and I hopefully have remedied that this year. Now, one thing you don't want to do when it's this tender, and especially when it's wet, is really come in with great big heavy lawnmowers. So Stuart, right here, let's put in my little push reel mower that I just did it day before yesterday, Stuart. Remember, I had you bring it up from the garage.
Oh, yeah.
I did it day before yesterday. That's how much it's grown. But it is gentle enough, and it's not so heavy that it would cause any kind of ruts in the grass or tear out any of this tender green growth that has erupted. But I think it looks brilliant right now, albeit maybe a little bit too long, but I think it will be great, and I'm so happy that I did it. And again, this is not only an investment in this winter when it will remain a little bit more green than the brown Bermuda, but it's most importantly an investment in next spring. Okay, so this is an answer to that question. Do you or do you not discard your fall mums after they have finished blooming? Now, for a lot of us, we put out mums early in the fall season, and now they are pretty much past their prime. This one was already, well, it was just done for. So I clipped it back really hard. You can see the new flush of green growth. It has definitely got a lot of life in it yet. This one is about half through. So what I'm going to do is, now that we've had some rain and the ground is moist, I'm going to go ahead and plant these in the ground. I mentioned this earlier, but this is a wonderful tip, you guys. Use something like this that will grow bushy, low and mounded, that you can kind of keep pruned down during the summer to reserve the bloom for fall, but it will hide the ugly legs of the gaura that's growing behind it, because that kind of bothers me a little bit. This will fill out. It's in my custom color palette of white, blue, pink, and I think it'll be really beautiful. So now's the time to go ahead and get those in there before the rain of next week. They'll get nice, settled in, make themselves at home, and they will bloom white next year, and I'm not wasting my money on them. Okay, it was so fun this morning. I was sitting up in my office looking out the window as all the kiddies were walking to school in their Halloween costumes up and down this walkway right along Autumn's Edge. And Autumn's Edge, I think, looks really, really beautiful right now. But I also want to kind of do the cleanup. I want to get these transplants, like I'm going to transplant this rose over in its other location. I really want all of that done. So finally, I can kind of feel as if the final design of this really comes to fruition, and then look to see if there's anything I need to not only add, but as importantly, edit out. Because believe it or not, this stuff is going to continue to grow until we have its first frost. It looks so lush right now, and I'm really, really pleased with the way this whole area has been transformed. So we'll try to put up links to everything in Autumn's Edge right here. Most of them are Southern Living plants. I've talked to you about this before, but now is a perfect time to plant. We still haven't had our first frost. Even if you have, if the ground is still not frozen, and especially if the ground has been hydrated by a recent rain, then now is the time to plant trees and shrubs and even some perennials. So take advantage of this window of time before it gets really cold while the soil is in its most perfect state, and it will really give these trees, shrubs, perennials a chance to get nestled in, get settled in, put in root growth for next spring, and the cherry on the cake is then you'll be able to kind of see whatever design you have in mind come to fruition. Woo! Okay. This section right here, I really want to talk about leaves, but as I get to something that I want to show you, you see I've got more of these white mums here. And intentionally I bought all the mums in the same color palette so that when I plant them in the ground, it will be very cohesive once they bloom next year. And again, speak to my color palette. Okay, look up here, Stuart. I'm also eyeing opportunities. What a great topiary candidate this is right here. This is one of the better boxwood. It's a skylight better boxwood. And do you see what I mean? How it has a topiary potential? Because I can cut this one off, let this one grow, transform this one into a ball, and in short order I will have a really great topiary form. So this is one of the things that I may go ahead and dig up this fall or maybe this spring to start transforming it into a topiary. And then come up this way. I swear stuff looks so much more lush just since that rain last night, because Stuart, we hadn't had rain.
It's been a while.
It's the driest October, has been the driest October on record. So come through here. I'm anxious to go ahead and pull out all of the lantana in the window box. That's going to be fine. We'll replace it with some pansies and probably a few bulbs. I'm anxious to go ahead and pull out all of these. And then the topiary candidate that I just showed you.
These are a little easier than the ones over there, huh?
Yes, and and the topiary candidate that I just showed you, this is the shape it will finally adopt. And I did this one years ago. And it has not only grown into a pretty full-grown form, but you can see where there was storm damage from an ice storm and how it's already starting to fill out. So that's something to be on the watch for. But I said I wanted to talk about leaves and leaf litter, so let's do that. To the extent possible, I'm going to try not to put a lot of leaves into the landfill. Now, one of the challenges that those of us that live in small garden areas, and this is my question of the day, what do you do to try to really optimize the value, the organic matter material, the carbon, if you will, of all of those dried leaves if you live on a small property? Because I definitely think it's a challenge. You know, I compost as many of them as I can, but I don't have a really large landscape in which to blow them or hide them, or even an area where I could really dedicate to just strictly composting. But I am going to do my best this year to keep as many of them out of the landfill as possible. So here are some strategies. Number one, once they start falling, as many as possible, and I'm not going to shred them or anything, but as many as possible, I'm going to blow back in here underneath all of the hollies, in and amongst all of the hydrangeas, and that will get increasingly easier to do as these lose their foliage. And what that will do is mulch all of them. It will insulate them against the cold. It will keep the moisture in the ground and not, not evaporate away. But the other thing that it will do is hopefully it will look presentable, and then maybe next spring I'll just leave it in place and won't have to mulch at all, because these have gotten large enough now that it can kind of camouflage the messy look. Sometimes that's a result of using leaves as mulch. But I'm going to save as many of them as possible, blowing them back into the encore azaleas, in and amongst all of the hollies, even underneath the buddleia, anywhere I can. Some of it I will save and I will put in my Works Leaf mulcher. So let's put that Works Leaf mulcher right here. By the way, it is on sale right now. So if you are wanting it, then definitely you want to check into it, or at least it was last time I looked.
Mom.
Mom, yeah, Mom. I do love it. Several of you have texted me and said that you got one, and it's really, really great. And the other thing that I like about it is it also can chop up some green matter, some small green matter, which provides the nitrogen as kind of the counterpoint to the carbon of the leaves, and then that makes an even better blend to mulch your plants with. So that's definitely something that I am going to do. I'm going to do it all over in here. And the advantage to things maturing is when I blow those leaves into place, the maturity of the plants themselves will obscure kind of the messiness of the leafy mulch. And I won't have to spend as much money on bagged mulch next year, because hopefully that leafy mulch will do its job. One of the things in my garden manifesto is that there are points of great opportunity in the garden, one being immediately after a rain or a week or so after a rain. And what that's going to do is give me a chance to do some seedling recognition, to see what is germinating that will potentially be here next spring. And this is a perfect example. Look right here. All of this is larkspur. So I recognize its seedling by this distinctive kind of cut leaf form of the second true leaves that have come out. I see a number of it germinating in here.
So what's the little round leaf?
This before it's put on these second leaves. This would be the cotyledon, and this would be its first set of true leaves. So you see a little bit of it here, and you can see some of it over there. Can you see some of it in the distance? Okay, so this tells me that if I want to keep it here, I can, and I can make a note in my garden journal, this is where I will have a tuft of larkspur. Now something that's next to it is looking kind of scruffy, and this was the purple dome, purple ball basil. It was absolutely beautiful, but at a certain point I quit cutting it back in that ball form because I want it to go to seed. So I'm gonna let this start dropping some of this seed as it dries, and then the added advantage of using and blowing leaves on here as a mulch is this is an annual. So if any of those seeds want to germinate, or if they germinate even before it gets cold, then that leafy cover, that leafy blanket will protect it, and hopefully those seeds will endure into next year. That's indeed what happened with my boxwood basil, which is right behind you at your feet, Stuart.
Oh, over there. It could have gone the other way.
And I'm doing the same with this and the other clumps that are near the walkway. I'm going to let it go ahead, grow out, set seed, and hopefully some of those little darlings will germinate and grow in place, and I'll have them next year, even without having to plant them myself. So one more thing, and then I think we'll kind of take a break. I've got another question for you, but let's do that once we come back. Okay, here's another question for you. So because the lantana has grown so large, I'm going to go ahead and take that out today. So again, enjoy it now. I'm enjoying it now because it's going to be gone by this afternoon. What I'm really struggling with, though, is whether or not I should go ahead and take out the pentas, which aren't consuming as much real estate in the garden. So if you or me, would you leave them in place, or would you just go ahead and get all of your work done at one time and take them out? So that is another question of the day for you. Now, while I will be forlorn to see so much of this stuff gone, and by the way, yesterday I came out and there was a family of 3 here that had driven up specifically from Dallas for no other reason than to see the cottage garden. So I was so flattered, and I was and so glad that I hadn't already torn out all of the lantana, because it made the cottage garden look very, very, very colorful. Okay, so here's another thing. While I will be bereft when this color leaves, nevertheless, my roses are going as strong, if not stronger, than they did earlier in the growing season. Look at all those buds. So I will have still remaining color from the candy butterfly, from the roses, from the interesting seed heads of the salvias and the veronicas, and that will assuage my grief just a little bit. And I'm so thrilled about how they have performed. Actually, I'm pretty much thrilled with how all of this stuff has performed, largely because of the Southern Living Plant Collection, because these guys are tough. So we've got a few Halloween surprises for you, but happy Halloween. Please be safe, please be careful, please take this moment in time to really savor this special time with the little kitties, whether you're young or old. I certainly am looking forward to all of my little neighbor darlings coming by to show me their costumes.